climate change, not man-made greenhouse gases, CO2 in particular. Right? The science is not in it. Something fascinating is going on right now that reminds me enormously of 25 years ago with the dinosaur extinction debates. Right? And the only thing, and the interesting thing is, unlike 25 years ago, there's political pressure on any dissenters about the standard view. There's political pressure to shut up and not speak out and say, you know what, maybe the paradigm is wrong. Maybe it is something else like solar activity. But the challenge is growing, growing, growing. The evidence is growing. Who knows what's going to happen with this debate? But there's no question. We can all agree we've got to reduce pollution. Right? That's no question about it. Are we going to go the way of Aldo Leopold? And here's the thing I raised before, the problem of scope. We can look at human rights, okay, and then we get a problem, we say, well, we've got to expand it. Chimpanzee rights, because they have 98 to 99% the same DNA. So let's make it chimpanzee rights too. Okay, gorillas, orangutans, apes, monkeys, higher animals, right? Then we can get into thinkers like Paul Taylor and Albert. I love Albert Schweitzer, one of my icons. Biocentric ethics. Paul Taylor argues for rights for all living things. Right? Schweitzer, I don't think he used rights talking. Right? Rights for all living things. And then Aldo Leopold, the land ethic, and deep ecology, saying no, rocks have rights, water has rights, natural rights, air has natural rights. And I think this is the problem Plato had. You start believing in forms, and then you get the problem of scope. You start believing in human rights, you start getting the problem of scope. Right? What happened to Plato's forms? You got Aristotle.
But you know how things look there? Is we wouldn't survive without bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So to say, what about the life in the soil, which we again rely on? Right? Do we just turn our back and say, oh no, we can just decimate the quality of soil and somehow we're going to be around?
Well, now I think of Camus. The biggest problem in philosophy is, should I kill myself? Because if I'm going to say apples have rights and bacteria have rights, then I'm a immoral bastard because I'm violating the rights of living things left, right, and center. And this is the problem. This is the problem.
I like apples, though.
Yes,
Eating
right.
them. Not admiring them. Thank you.
Next question.
Hello. You've established that what people commonly take to be universal human rights are just arbitrary conceptions. But do you have a non-arbitrary view of human rights? Like you talked about utility maximization at the end. Do you believe in a utility maximization or some Pareto optimization? Or
No, I don't believe in maximization.
What's your approach to human rights?
I'm a minimalist. I won't say that I have a set view that I'll defend to the end. I don't think I've disproved that human rights, natural human rights exist. I don't go that far.
You argued against it.
No, my approach is rather a new view of philosophy of science, which is inference of the best explanation. Right? All things considered, I think the best explanation is that universal human rights just don't exist. That's not to say I've proven it. I think it's an inference of the best explanation. Now, new evidence might change that. Right? We'll always open to new evidence or argument. But I think it's an inference of the best explanation. So then what's left? Do whatever we will, anarchy, stop caring about other human beings, and that sort of thing. No, I think Peter Singer has a very powerful alternative, which is minimizing pain and suffering. But now we're not just talking humans, though. That's a beautiful thing about Singer. And another beautiful thing about Singer is he practices what he philosophizes. He doesn't just philosophize. He lives his philosophy. Greatly, you know, I'm down here. I look at people like Peter Singer and Albert Schweitzer up here because they didn't just create philosophies, they lived them as a shining example. And I'm down here. But, you know, it's great to have people like that where you always try to be a little bit more like them.
it's another arbitrary position, but it's your default position.
Sure, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Right.
Hi, thanks for that talk. It was very, very interesting. So, just a couple of comments. Actually, in the course of just standing here and listening further, it's kind of, most of it's been kind of quiet and dissipated, so I guess not so much. But, so, arguing against human rights, even though you say you don't do that, but...
I can't hear anything.
Is the microphone on?
Test? Okay, my fault, sorry. So, there seems to be a subtle distinction between the notion of human rights or animal rights or any kind of rights and the example of Singer of minimizing the pain and suffering of others, because it seems in a lot of cases to me that, for example, the animal rights movement, that a lot of the language that they use, even though it's clothed in rights and this and that, is actually really referring to what Singer is addressing, and maybe not explicitly, maybe not even consciously, but maybe just because even with Singer, what that approach, where it comes from, I think, is this kind of basic human part of our condition, where just to avoid causing pain and suffering, even though it varies and so on, but let alone the factory farming, but even just slaughtering an animal yourself. Like when I grew up in a rural area in Serbia for a couple of years, I was living there, and you see the people chasing down the animals, and they know what's coming to them, and they're screaming, and as they cut, it's horrific, like your whole being is in shock. So, and this, there must be some evolutionary basis for it. So it might be doubtful whether this can, how far you can go with this, but it seems like it's a good start, like you say, and to me, it's quite heartening. It's not this. I came here, it's like, oh no, this is going to be a big doom and gloom thing, but actually, I think there's a very big positive spin you can take on it, and maybe you can emphasize that more. But I guess you want to be impartial and stuff like that. Just using Singer as an example and not being like putting him up on a pedestal too much, but there's a lot of that.
One of my earliest childhood memories is my mother grew up in a farm in Hanover, Ontario, a couple of hours north of here. And one of my earliest childhood memories is my grandfather having a calf in an enclosure and with an axe. And you're a kid, you get to know calves, you play with them and touch them. And then there's Grandpa chasing it with an axe and it's screaming. It's horrendous. It's a memory that stuck with me. We have these natural instincts, right? The postmodernists in league with the standard social science model says, oh, there's no such thing as human nature. Doesn't follow if we take evolution seriously. Evolutionary psychology is just blossoming into a genuine science, and it all goes back not just to Darwin but to Hume, who argued that morality boils down to a small set of moral instincts. Now that is positive, but then along comes Stanley Milgram in the 60s and 70s. Who did studies using an electric chair that was fake and an actor, and he found that we also have a further instinct. Yes, we have these moral instincts.
The Stanford prison experiments?
Yes, and then we also have an instinct that can